Welcome to the Creation Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth King. Together, we'll have conversations with incredible human beings who have taken their creative outlet and turned it into something innovative. From people leaving the corporate world to be 8-figure entrepreneurs to people who have created books, created a family, or just creating to have fun in the world. We are all in a journey to create something amazing in our lives, and I hope that you find some inspiration of your own here. This is the Creation Innovation Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creation Innovation. I am very excited today to speak to Nancy Mae. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Elizabeth.
Yeah, she is an intuitive fertility educator and spirit baby expert, as well as a certified coach. She has so much information that I cannot wait to dig into. First of which, she talks about energy medicine. That's my first question. What is energy medicine? Tell us about that. How can we get some?
This is a great question. So everything is energy. I mean, you probably have been hearing about quantum physics and kind of these cool things that quantum physics is showing us, that many of the traditional older like healing methodologies, whether you go to ancient Egypt or you go into India, you go into China for acupuncture, those sorts of things, they all knew about everything being energy.
Right.
And they treated people's ailments based on that. The Western medical model is very different. We go to the symptoms. We don't go to the core. So energy medicine for me is a way of working with the energetics behind whatever the ailments are. And those could be physical, they could be emotional, they could be mental, they could even be spiritual. So working with the energy aspects of things to be able to shift the energy so you feel better on whatever level it is that you're wanting to feel better.
Which makes complete sense, but how do you know which way to go, what to do when you meet somebody? And is it for all things? Is it specific to fertility? Is it, tell us about that too.
Great
question. If you go to an acupuncturist, you usually would go to an acupuncturist and say, I have back issues, or I'm trying to get pregnant, or whatever. So they know where to focus that on, or even Reiki healing or anything like that, right? Do you specialize in a specific field? I mean, I know you do fertility as well, but how do you wait for that person to tell you, or do you intuitively know this is what energy medicine this person needs?
The way I work is basically intuitively. The vast majority of people I work with these days are fertility related. So I know what their ultimate goal is.
Yeah.
And things can come up, whether, in the physical realm, which is not my specialty. My specialty is in the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of things. Because there's so many subconscious layers of us and even unconscious layers of us that if we're not even aware of those things, we can't shift them. So I don't know exactly how I do it, other than I call it a superpower or a gift. I've had this superpower for my entire life. Like I've been able to, understand what's going on for people on an energetic kind of emotional level since I was little. And I didn't even know I knew how to do it. I just thought it was normal. I thought everyone could read the energy the way I did.
What does that look like as a young person? What do you mean by that? So you would meet someone and you would say, this is what's going on with them, or?
For me, mostly it's, you may have heard the term empath or empathic.
Yeah.
It's that, and it's at a very high level of that. I've also done a lot of training and a lot of my own work around honing my intuitive capabilities. So, as a young person, I work with a lot of people who already have children. So I tap into their energies and can see these very empathic children and how they work with energy. basically a lot of times what kids end up doing is reading their parents' energies so that they can stay safe or they can keep the calm in the family.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I know what happened with me, and I can see it with other children as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have little ones right now, and just they are so on it, like I make one comment to my husband or something and they react to that, it actually is so amazing and frightening at the same time, because as much as we are so much more conscious now as a collective than we were 40, 50 years ago of our parents' generation, we still are learning as we go. And I think those little spirits, and they teach us so much, right? Of like the fact that we do know better, we do know that they are so in tune and watching us on a very deeper and higher level, for that matter as well, I think really does keep us in check in a lot of other ways too.
Absolutely. And if everyone comes in, well, this is the way I work, right?
Sure.
Like I believe we have many lives. We don't just have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are these souls that are waiting to come in, and I call that the spirit baby realm. And every single one of us who comes in, we're still very connected to the spirit realm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just after a certain amount of time, it tends to be conditioned out of us.
Yeah.
When we come here, it's kind of, I see it like a whiteboard, right? We don't remember everything about the spirit world. It's wiped out. It's clean. Yeah. It's a clean slate. But over time, we remember what we already know. And the little ones already have this connection. They don't remember everything. Some people do. Like occasionally I'll have a client say, is it normal for my child to say, I picked you? Or I've had people say that, it's just so fun to hear what the little ones say. Yeah. Or I had someone actually earlier this week who said, my daughter, she's 6 years old, and she was just talking about how she used to be an angel. Mm. And, and it, to me, all these things are absolutely real.
Yeah.
And once we get to school age, typically, that's when a lot of times it's really conditioned out. Or also it could be family related. If a family is very against that, someone could really kind of put a lid on it and shut it down very early.
Right. Yeah. I've had conversations where the losses that I had happened to be girls, and my sons would say, my sisters, even before I think they even really had a concept of what a sister was. And I would always be like, yes, you have little spirit sisters. And, we pray to the guides and all the things, because I do want them to stay connected, to know that that's real, because that's not normally a conversation that people grow up with prior. Not that I did. It was a very more religious type, even though there were some spiritual aspects. It was much more, you go to church and you do this sort of thing, where we really teach them more of, we pray to these energies, right? The spirit guides, God, whoever else you want to include in that. And the crystals and all of the things that help us to heal, and they call the crystals the angels, and I just let them go with that. Like if that's what they think they are, then great. So I think it's really beautiful to see the evolution of how the kids interpret that, and it actually makes me quite sad to think that does go away, right? And that society tends to then form them in whatever way that it does. But for now, it's fun to see how that goes.
Well, I love it. And then I also love to say, especially with kids, is that a lot of times the kids just want to fit in. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons they shut it down, is they just want to be normal, whatever that means.
Right.
They want to be fit into whatever part of the culture that they want. And then ideally they come back and remember, or they don't lose too much contact.
Right, right. So speaking of spirit babies, it's one of my favorite topics. Yes. Tell us a little bit about how that works for people. I think most, it's funny, I would always talk about spirit babies, and clients would be like, oh, have you read the book? And I actually had never read the book. Finally, somebody sent the book to me, and yet I still haven't read it, I have to be honest. But from your perspective, how does that play into somebody's journey of fertility? And actually, I had a moment this morning that I want to touch on later as well about, I'm post fertility and won't be having any more children. But that emotion and experience around my losses specifically and feeling unsafe and all of that came up really strong for me this morning in a conversation. And I thought, wow, as much as I do this for a living and I have gone through it all, I didn't realize that there was still so much heaviness there that I need to work on to know that I'm not at risk of having any more of these spirit babies come with me and then leave, or however it was for that I realized it in my reality. But when you're working with somebody who's starting out on their fertility journey and may or may not have had losses, what does having a spirit baby around them look like? And yeah, what does that tell us about that?
So for me, I worked with Walter McKitchen, who wrote the
Oh,
book
okay.
Spirit Babies. So I worked with him for 4 years until he passed on. And then he passed on, and I basically do this work as a way of honoring what he used to do, but I work very differently than him.
Right. I'm
Very
sure
different
everybody does,
personality.
right?
Yeah.
Everyone has their own magic and how
Yeah.
they do it.
So for me, spirit babies really are these souls who are interested in coming in. And I happen to work with a subset of the spirit baby realm. And
Okay.
what do I mean by that? For whatever reason, I work with these higher vibration babies that are interested in coming in to shift the planet somehow.
Okay.
And that could be just by their vibration, them just being here. It doesn't mean they're going to be inventors, doesn't mean they're going to like do something to help the environment. They very well they may be the activists, they may be the ones like that, but they don't have to be. Sometimes it's just the energy of these certain souls that are higher, that are needed here on this planet to help shift everything going on. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been feeling so many crazy shifts on this planet over the last 4 years, and they're expediting. And that's what these souls are here to help with. So with the women that I tend to work with, a lot of times their spirit babies will bring them to me. So if all of a sudden someone is interested in working with me, chances are pretty darn good that someone on your etheric team is guiding you.
Yes.
So that I can help facilitate this.
Right.
Walter McKitchen used to see green orbs, or like orbs of light for these spirit babies. I see people.
Okay.
And they might be little babies, they might be, our age, they might be, who knows,
Yeah.
They are definitely not little orbs. Very rarely do I see an orb.
Okay.
But that's how they appear to me. And for some people don't realize that they're actually connecting in with their spirit baby. And some people do. A lot of times, so the spirit babies don't have conversations like you and I are having. They speak to us in very subtle ways. Sometimes we just have a thought, and that's actually from the spirit baby, like wanting us to go work with a certain practitioner or change which medical doctors or what providers we're working with, or starting to eat more greens in our diet, or that could literally be our spirit baby giving us information to, I'm just going to say telepathically, which is non-verbally, giving us some information to help them on their journey. Other times it can feel like there's a presence near us. Like we might feel like it feels like someone's standing behind me right now. That very well could be your spirit baby. Some people get a buzzing in their ear, unless it's tinnitus or something like that, and you know that. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a spirit trying to get your attention. The thing is, the frequency that the human ear can hear at is not the same frequency that these spirits are trying to communicate with us at. So it's learning how to work with that to be able to decipher what those messages are. And here's a few ways to do it. One, here's how I do it. When I get a buzz, I get buzzes pretty much every day. For the longest time, I'm like, what the heck is this buzz?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I realized, oh, wow, as soon as I stop kind of trying to figure it out, a thought or a phrase just comes to mind. So I call it a thought form. So I get the buzz, and then I just know just to be very kind of still for a moment, and then either one word or a small phrase will pop into my mind. And that's what they're trying to get to me. It might be about, peace. It might be about love. It might be about rest now. Things like, it's not like a conversation. It's literally like that. Other ways that buzz can come through for us is we might all of a sudden just start singing a song. We might hear a certain song on the radio. We might wake up with a song in our head. That's all related to what I call clairaudience. And that's what that buzzing's about. There's a lot of other ways that can come through with the clairaudience, but so many people I work with get the buzzes and they have no idea that could be their spirit baby helping them to get some information about coming through.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel for me, it's almost like a high pitched, like what's happening right now, and I will take that advice and try to be with that when that happens from now on to see if if I can get any downloads from there.
It's really cool when you start really realizing how this creative flow happens for you with that clairaudience. There's so many different ways. It could even be conversations, or I've had people let me know that they heard someone say something, then they saw that same word in a book, and then so things like that. So it is very auditorily related on some level.
Yes. And are these spirit babies, because I feel like most people who are seeking someone out who has this gift are looking for some hope around their baby to come, right? So are you able to get those types of messages to say, don't worry, they're coming for sure? Or is it more of like a general, like you were saying, about peace, or maybe you need to rest more or something of that nature?
When I'm working with someone, I get a ton of information.
Okay.
But it's not like, okay, on, December 10th of 2022, you do this, and then that will happen. That's not the information that comes through. It is much more typically about how to align our own energies, or how to connect with a spirit baby, or if you have a partner and you're bringing in a baby with a partner, it may be something related to the partner. If you already have children in the family, maybe something related to the children who are already there, or even pets. There's a lot of different ways that, the reason for spirit babies to come in or not can come through, but all that sort of stuff I look at in a spirit baby reading. Other things I really look at when I'm working with people are their losses. Have they had miscarriages? Have they had abortions? Have they had any other type of loss around fertility? Because sometimes it is the same soul that wants to come back, and sometimes it's not. So a lot of what I do is around abortions, is around, whether it was from many, many years ago, even decades ago, or something recent. So helping people work through that from what I call a spiritual level, because these souls come in, they have a gift for us. We might not see it as a gift at the time, or maybe even not later, but truly it is a gift. It's a gift both ways. There's some sort of contract that you have made for this sort of connection for as long as it is, whether it's 6 weeks or even 6 months. No, there is a connection there. So helping people with that, kind of seeing it from that spiritual perspective can be really helpful on their journeys. I work with some people who've been on their journeys for a decade plus.
Right.
And they've been through everything.
Yeah. And I do think that I often refer to a lot of my clients out to spirit baby readers, because I feel like it does give them some sense of calm and peace, and connecting those dots that, this spirit also has a decision to make if they're willing and wanting to come, and when they are. And, we want it so bad more than anything possible. But they're, speaking of the spouses and the other children and the pets, and it's a contract between everybody, right? It's not just what we are willing, we're wanting and wishing this so badly, but there's so many other aspects involved that I think once they get that understanding that it's also up to this spirit and what they would like and their timing, And to kind of get that perspective, I think, at least for me as well, and many, many of my clients, it does bring this sense of calm and peace and, a level of patience that we didn't have before, because you kind of recognize, okay, there's a bigger picture here.
Oh, absolutely. And this, especially for people who've had losses, and there's so many women who come to me and are just like guilt ridden, or, oh my God, did I do something wrong? Or I can't, I've never stopped thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to communicate with the spirit baby and let them know that, no, everything's okay. All of that is super, super important. I'm all about empowering the women and
Yeah.
teaching them tools to be able to communicate with their spirit baby without needing me. So helping them to align their energy in such a way so that they can much more easily communicate. It's like learning a foreign language. We don't learn it overnight, or
Right.
a musical instrument. It's over time, but once you know how to do it and you have the skill set, it's pretty darn cool. And people I work with are amazed at, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I got this message. And it is all about, it's about hope. It's about love. It's loving ourselves. That's a huge part of the work that I do, is helping women learn how to really increase their self-love. Because without that, it is so hard to tap into the spirit baby realm. It's really hard to tap into our creativity. It's really this beautiful element of what helps to raise our vibration, is that self-love. And
Yeah,
self-love is different than self-care. Self-care is great, and it's an element
absolutely.
of self-love, but self-love is very different.
Yeah. And I think just having gone through it myself, as well as helping hundreds of people also in this, you lose that self-love because you feel like, okay, I'm checking all the boxes, I'm doing everything right, but my body isn't working, right? And that's why I say, what if we looked outside of the physical, right? What is this mental, spiritual aspect outside of what's going on? Because I see people that, they're like, my doctor told me if I don't lose weight, I'll never have a baby. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is to me crazy. There's so much more to it than this, right? And yet this person then goes back to say, I have to spend $10,000 on this fertility diet. And I'm like, then they become more stressed about what they're eating or not eating. And it has nothing really to do with that. It's just getting back to that place that they lost of, I feel like they lose the self-love and they lose the intuitive ability because they're in so much, they're like in this pain body and so stressed about it. And so giving them, I love that you give them the tools to work through that, to find themselves back in that self-love, because it's so important. And I think that those spirit babies want to come to mommies and daddies that are having fun and loving each other and creating every day. So I love that you talk about creating. So that's also something that I talk about all the time, is we're wanting to create, period, right? So whether that's, I always say, somebody sent me, I created a spreadsheet today. Amazing. You had an intention of creating, right? It doesn't matter what you're creating, but if your body is in alignment with that spiritual aspect of the ability to create, and you know that, you have that knowing, the more you paint, play Play-Doh, draw, whatever, make a recipe, is creating and having that intention about it. So from your perspective, I know you mentioned creation and creating is so important to you. What does that look like for the people that you work with?
So when I talk about creating, it's really this strong connection with the earth. So with
Uh-huh.
Gaia, Mother Earth, and then also this co-creative process with connecting with the infinite intelligence,
Yes.
God, the universe, whatever you want to say. Because when we truly want to create and manifest things on this earth plane, if we're not grounded and we're not connected to the earth somehow,
Yeah.
much harder to have that creative flow.
Yes.
So that's the secret recipe from my point of view. And there's lots
All
of things,
right.
of course, to help with grounding, to help with connecting with the infinite intelligence. But once we're plugged in both ways, and we allow ourselves to be plugged in, we give ourselves permission on the subconscious and unconscious levels to be able to connect in with this earth energy and with the cosmos, miracles happen every day.
Mm-hmm. Can you give some tips as to how to connect with the grounding aspect as well as with the higher realms?
Absolutely. So lots of different ways of connecting with Mother Earth. And for me, a lot of it is through meditation. Doesn't have to be, though. Going out into nature, especially without electronics and especially by yourself. Spend some time by a tree, by a creek, in the mountains. That definitely can be really grounding. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga. Sometimes for some of us, it's physical, strenuous exercise that really helps. For others, it's music.
Mm-hmm.
But, to be honest, if you just sit and you close your eyes and you take a few deep cleansing breaths, so you can feel your belly rise. So those deep belly breaths. And then you imagine your favorite place out in nature. And you hear whatever it is, the birds or whatever, the water, whatever it might be. And then you smell whatever's around. Do you smell the ocean if you're near the ocean? What is that? And what's the temperature outside? Is it cool and crisp, or is it really sunny and warm? All those sorts of things will let you get to that place. You'll be able to ground much more easily. Connecting with the cosmos is, I highly recommend being grounded first.
Okay.
Because if we're not fully grounded, we can go out of our body when we're trying to connect with the cosmos.
And how do you know when you've been fully grounded? If some people are really disconnected to that, how do you think that they will know? Is it by the amount of time that they're doing, or do they start to feel different? What can they look out for?
If you feel fear, you feel anxiety, you feel overwhelmed, you're not grounded.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's when those times when you're feeling more peaceful. Out in nature, a lot of us just feel more peaceful. It's like, I can take a deep breath and life is great.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is when you're grounded, and you do what you can. So most of us are not walking around grounded. 100%. In fact, I don't know anyone who is. Maybe like the Dalai Lama or something like that, but outside of that. So getting as grounded as you can. Your breath is always in present time. If you focus on your breath, that can really help ground you. You can drop what I call a grounding cord from the bottom of your tailbone area, that first chakra area, down into the center of the earth. And imagine a special place in the center of the earth that's just for you, that has your name on it. Anchor into that. So
I love that visual. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Just like do your best. That's we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progress. So getting as grounded as you can, and then connecting with the cosmos. It could also be like connecting with the sky, connecting with the stars. Some people are very visual. So imagine a beautiful star-dappled night sky and connect with that expansion of the night sky and all the stars. That can be one way to help us connect with the cosmos. Some people have a religious background, whether it's God or another name that you use for that sort of energy. You can connect that way. However, I do find a difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is not as rules-based, if you will. And religion can be pretty rules-based. So just watching that.
Yeah.
And then some people have a connection with angels. Some people have a connection with their loved ones who's crossed over. There's lots of different entry points for connecting with the cosmos.
Amazing. You also talk about infinite intelligence. What is that, and how can we, it sounds so cool. How can we get some of that too?
So the infinite intelligence to me is the cosmos.
Okay.
This is the universe. And we are always surrounded by infinite intelligence. The reason why most of us don't tap into it is, one, we're not still enough. We're not present enough. We're not in our bodies enough. We're not grounded enough to be able to notice that there are miracles occurring around us each and every day, each and every moment.
Yeah.
One of the ways that really helps me, that I love to do, is to focus on what's going right. I feel like our culture, our world at large, tends to be focused on what's going wrong. So
Mhm.
really focusing on what's going right and really appreciating what's around. So the infinite intelligence is that co-creative energy for us. It's always here. It's always on our side. It always wants to help. We typically have the walls up or the doors slammed or closed, or we might open the window a little bit. And then some of us, open the door and the window a lot.
Yeah, I think looking for those little signs, so to speak, of, oh, I was just thinking about Nancy and then I got a text, or I was just doing this and then that showed up. I feel like those are, quantum, whatever it is that you want to say, but that's the universe working with you. That is the infinite intelligence in a sense. And people just don't kind of say, oh, thank you, like don't appreciate it and lean into that a little more. And I think once we do lean into it, then it just starts to flood, right? And like you said, appreciating these little things and focusing on the good, because it's so easy to focus on the negative, especially when you're on a fertility journey, especially when you've had time and time again bad news, lots of tests that don't come back the way that you want it to come back. Focusing on those aspects that are working will actually pull you back out of it to where you should be.
Yeah, I remember, I call them my guides, my team, my higher ups.
Yes.
On many occasions, they have encouraged me to write down a list of 10 things that bring me joy. Because when we're in one of those modes of, oh, we just got horrible news or what have you, it may be challenging to think of anything that's joyful. So if we have it written down already, whether it's a YouTube video or a meme or, whatever,
Yes.
just to have your list already written down so that you can refer to it is really helpful.
Yeah, I would even put that on your phone, right?
Yeah,
Depending on how
100%.
far you are. It's like, because we all unfortunately have our phones with us all the time, but having that list I think is so helpful. So thank you for that information, because we've it's almost sometimes harder to write down those things that we're grateful for or the good things that are happening, but it's so easy for us to complain about all the things that aren't happening, but they're there. We don't fuel it, we don't water it, we don't encourage the good things. So the more that we can do that, like putting in our phone and say, look at this amazing spot in my life that I'm giving you to remind me of what good this is, or just something that makes you smile, again, like a meme or whatever, like that shifts your energy right then and there too. Really, studies have shown a smile will change things.
Absolutely. And that's, a couple things here is, one is my favorite quote right now are, things are always working out for me. And that's from
Beautiful.
Abraham Hicks, right? Things are always working out for me, no matter what's going on, because they really, truly are. The universe is not out to get us.
Right.
Just if we're not tapped into it, it can't help us because we have free will.
Yes.
And
And
that's
I know that feels that way though when you're on a fertility journey, or when you're starting a business, or when you're trying to find that relationship. You tend to feel like it's not working out for you.
what helps me is, whenever I feel that way, it's an indication that I'm out of sync with my higher self, meaning that essence part of me, that
Right.
soulful part of me.
Right.
That's what it always means for me, is I've just lost contact with her. And what can I do? I always choose, what can I do to help me get in more alignment with her so that I don't feel this way? Because she will never want us to feel sad or like we're struggling or that someone's out to get us. Absolutely not.
And it's possible to change it. So if there's anybody who's listening that's feeling that way and, not on the positive side, there are tools, and try putting any of these things into practice today that we spoke about.
Well, exactly. Like that, literally this morning, I was like, okay, there's something off here. And I had a meeting and my guidance was, Nancy, just sit and be present. And had I not done that, I wouldn't have been able to get out of that little whatever was going on, because
Yeah.
it's human for us to have these emotions.
Right.
It is. It's just having a toolbox and actually doing the work integrating that toolbox so you actually take the tools and use them. Like you can't, if you have a hammer in your toolbox and you don't ever use it, you're not going to get the nail into the wall easily.
Right.
But I sat and I'm like, all right, okay. Oh, I feel so much better.
Yeah. Those small moments go a long way. And we are having a human experience, and a lot of human experience is not as pleasant as we would like. So it's normal to feel down at times, but having those tools and just try it out for a week or a few days even, and notice the difference of putting the energy out in order to make those changes. I will be very surprised if you don't get the result that you're headed towards.
I completely agree. And the results typically are incremental, right? You just get a little bit at a time, you're getting closer. I know for me, a lot of people ask, well, how do I get that baby here? Yeah. It's incremental steps. It's not just one thing, and it's never a straight line, A to B. That's very masculine. Yeah. I feel like this creative process with the infinite intelligence uses a lot of that feminine energy as well, right? It's this flowing energy. And sometimes we think A to B is the way we go, but there are going to be other things along the way that are super helpful for us to pick up.
Absolutely. And that goes back to all these type A people. I'm one of them that checks off all the boxes to say, okay, but I did all this, why isn't it working? Why, and it's because I am a feminine energy. I need to be in that flow more than just checking the boxes off. Right. And I think, thank you for that reminder, because connect, and that's part of connecting with the divine and Mother Earth and hugging the tree or putting your feet on the ground. That really does connect us to where we are, because unfortunately most women now live in this very masculine lifestyle or world, for better or worse, but we're doing a lot of things that we weren't doing 50, 60 years ago. And that does, take a toll on our energetic realm as women as well. So that's why I also say, like, take the baseball caps off, put on some lipstick, wear a dress every now and then. And I promise you will feel that feminine energy. It does work,
It does. And it's this balance, right, of the masculine, because we need to take action.
Of course.
We have to take, in the baby world, you either have to have intercourse, you got to have an IUI or IVF or something,
right,
to be able to bring a baby, and you need that action step. But it is this feminine flow that allows us to tap into that creative energy and our intuition. Absolutely.
Which is so beautiful, I think. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, how can people find you, Nancy? It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. How can people find out more about you? I know you have an amazing book. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I have a book. It's called The Energetic Fertility Method, Tools for a Healthy Conception and Beyond. You can easily find that on Amazon. Best way to find me is at my website, nancymae.com. So NANCYMAE.com. You can also find me on TikTok at Energetic Fertility, and then also on Instagram at Nancy_Mae_EFM. So those are 3 great ways to connect.
Great. Well, thank you so much for bringing these helpful tools and hope to people that are listening. It's been, again, such a pleasure to speak with you today.
And you too, Elizabeth, and much love to everyone who's listening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Creation Innovation Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Spotify for free episodes and subscribe to the Creation Innovation Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you choose to get your podcast. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening for a chance to receive a special gift. Yes, we actually do send out gifts. It's my favorite thing to do. So visit us at elizabethking.com/creation innovation for more information on how to enter. Every review counts, and we are so grateful. You can follow me at the official Elizabeth King on Instagram or TikTok. Until next time.